Guys.
It is good to see you as well. All right, just one second. There we go. Welcome back, everybody. We are here at the top of the hour. It has been a wonderful day so far. We had some great speakers this morning. We had a panel discussion, and we have had one speaker already, and we have a couple more this afternoon. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you, audience, for being here, for participating, for putting things in the chat, all of those things. Remember, your questions and comments are very, very welcome through every single speaker that we have. And let us know that the links and stuff are working when we drop them, okay? And now it is time for another introduction.
I now have the pleasure of introducing John Kennedy, neuroplastician. John spent 25 years as a senior level process and project management coach and consultant before the Marines contracted him in 2007 to develop the world's first targeted neuroplasticity training program to apply his unique methodologies to the brain to improve mental efficiency. To date, thousands of people have experienced this program, and 100% report significant improvements in performance in all areas of their life. Clients include Marines, Navy SEALs, snipers, and their instructors, professional athletes, business leaders, students, children with learning disabilities, and those suffering from TBI, PTSD, ADHD, and autism. All have had their lives positively changed by the program, including yours truly, who has participated in the program and finds tremendous benefits in it. So welcome, John. It is an absolute pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks. And by the way, one of the best parts of taking you guys to the program was hanging out with you guys. You guys were so much fun.
Thank you so very much.
So just to kind of explain the title, and then I want to get into some concepts that parents really need to learn.
The title is Being Analog in a Digital World.
Yes, and that refers back to Nick Negroponte's seminal book in 1995, Being Digital, because he foretold everything that we experience now. So if you remember back then, a great example is, you want to watch a movie, right, with the family on a Saturday night. So what do? You got to go to Blockbuster and, look for all the VHS, try to find the one you wanted to see, and it's gone. So what do? You talk to the clerk, you talk to the guy next to you. What do you recommend? You're looking through all these different titles. You're trying to go by section. You finally find one you want to watch, right? So dopamine, a little anticipation. You go home, you get the family around the TV, you get the popcorn, and then you watch that movie together. Now, and what he foretold was streaming, right? So now we don't need to do that. We just stream, right? But we can spend as much time as it used to take to go to Blockbuster just trying to find one of the thousands of titles that are available to us. And so it's
and you always pick one you already watched.
That's right. I do that too, right? Because I know exactly. But what's missing in that is the human engagement, right? What's missing is our brain having to do all those decisions, having to talk to the person, having to wait in line. All those things are really what expand the connections in our brain that interface with the real world. And so the underlying concept that everybody needs to understand, I know our speakers understand it, is the idea of neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity is this incredible ability God gave our brains to change from repetition. Whatever we repeat is what forms those stronger ruts. We talk about, teaching all these different things, affirmations, teaching your kids. It's the repetition that solidifies them, right? You don't say an affirmation once and then all of a sudden you're better. You have to repeat that. And that's really important. So our model actually has 3 different levels of neuroplasticity. And I kind of liken it to a computer. I call it the computer model. Mm-hmm. So on our computers, we do lots of things. We have games. We have a browser. We may have, math programs. And each one of those can be upgraded, but it doesn't necessarily impact anything else. And it's kind of like the things we do. So, we might have a child who's an athlete. He goes out there, he throws his ball 10,000 times. He's going to be a better pitcher, but it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to do better at math. He might still have anger issues, other problems because they're isolated. Now, the operating system of the computer is so important because everything filters through the operating system. And that's where psychology resides. So important. In fact, most of the programs on here, that's that psychological level, whether it's affirmations, whether it's manifestation, NLP, positive psychology, all these things are very important because it's kind of broad. And actually, it's what we filter through. And it's very important, but it can take time. Now, the fastest way to upgrade all the applications and your operating system is get a new computer because the processor is faster. And so that's where we work. And so when the Marines contract me to develop this program, that's what we need to do. They already had amazing training programs, but the goal was to save lives of guys going into combat by making their brain faster, more focused under stressful situations, and also save lives of those coming out of combat with the wounds of war, post-traumatic stress, depression, anxiety, all those things. And so we found was if we target very specific cognitive skills using a very unique type of stimulation, which you guys experience, which is called robust stimulation, that robust stimulation will actually change the brain immediately, not just over days and weeks and months. And it's amazing. Some recent research has just come out by Dr. Kreinberger and also more of the original guys I base it on. And they can physically see in the brain now what happens with these short, intense bursts of stimulation in the areas critical to executive function. And so that's what I love about what we do. And as you said, a broad range of people. But the exercises themselves are so simple. I like to say simple enough for a 5-year-old, but tough enough for a Navy SEAL, because I work with both of those ends of the spectrum. And so it's all about neuroplasticity, and it doesn't compete with anything else, but it really supports everything else. Not really a teaching program, it's a training program. But along the lines of neuroplasticity, it's important for parents to understand that everything that they do, especially younger kids, is impacting their lives. Now, from our research and our model, it's basically what we learn between the time we're born and to about age 6 or 7, that the foundational cognitive skills are formed, right? But they're formed from 2 main reasons: interaction with our environment and modeling from adults. So most parents know they shouldn't have their kid on a phone before the age of 6 or 7, or even then, right? Because what's happening, instead of, take Minecraft, for example, right? Minecraft, you're on a screen and you're moving things around. That's very different to your brain than playing with real blocks, right? You're playing with real blocks, your project management, you got to stack them. You got to throw them. Or if you threw a block at your friend and you start crying, that's different than on a screen, right? So you learn so many things about your environment, and your brain is changing all those times to do what we ask it to do. But it's also important for parents to know that modeling from adults is so important. So just as you don't want your kid on a phone, if you're around your kids, don't be on a phone. You're teaching them, you're modeling for them that the attention on this device, whether it's Facebook, whatever else you're looking at, is more important than your attention to them. And so those are critical things. I speak a lot to parents specifically on that. You want to get your kids away from a digital environment as much as possible. And now in the age of AI, it's even worse. Right?
Exactly. And I want to liken that to what I talk about whenever I talk about parents and reading, right? They think that a child starts to learn to read at age 6 or 7 at school.
Yeah.
Like, no.
They start to learn to read by playing with blocks.
Yeah, by playing with blocks, by taking those blocks, by differentiating between the leaves, by moving the eyes, all of those things. Those were the beginning stages of reading. Yes. And so many of our kids are missing that because they aren't out in nature, like Dr. Emily said. They aren't doing the actual tactile blocks because they're on Roblox or Minecraft or whatever.
They just move their thumbs instead of gripping and holding and looking.
Exactly. And it starts very young. So my daughter, for example, because I was studying this at the time, even when she was 1-year-old, we did something very simple. So there's a framework of very critical mental processes that we want to train. That's what we target on. One of the most important is something called shape recognition. Recognizing shapes helps us take in new concepts and ideas because our brain puts a shape around it. So my daughter was maybe one, she barely learning to speak, and we would do something as simple as every time we saw an exit sign, she had to point at it and say exit. So we had a blast, but what we were doing was teaching her basic shape recognition. Those games where, where you're sequencing, where you have to put things in order is really important for kids, right? What comes before what? And the parent can get up. Why do you think this should go here? Always add that, before someone was talking about critical thinking. Well, underlying the teaching of critical thinking is the actual training the brain for critical thinking. And a lot of it's just asking your kids questions. If you're watching a movie, you can ask them, well, what do you think is going to happen? Who do you think the good guy is? Who do you think the bad guy is? And they start thinking ahead and asking themselves questions. And if they're right or wrong, it doesn't matter, right? It's that process of looking ahead and trying to make those decisions. So there's so many ways parents can integrate the things that they're already doing to really help improve the brain power of their kids.
That's one of the things that, we get a lot of pushback on. Oh, but my kid is learning when they're on the screen, or, oh, we like to sit down and watch TV together, so we don't want to lose that family time, etc. And what John was just describing was this. Yes, you can sit down and watch that movie and enjoy it together, but keep it interactive. Ask questions, ask for opinions before and after, things like that. Yes, have that family time, but do it in a way that really engages the brain as well.
Yeah, we were watching a biblical series that Jordan Peterson put out with a bunch of other speakers, and my mom would actually stop and ask questions, and so through that we would stop and then have like 15-minute, 20-minute sometimes discussions just on one little thing that they were talking about, background, context, bring it up, and then it's like we would go to the next part. Those are fabulous memories that I have because of the interaction and the life that happened and the extra learning just because of being in that enjoyable moment.
Right. You probably remember Baby Einstein when it first came out, right? Baby Einstein is supposed to make your kids smart. They did studies, and it's interesting because most parents just use it, a lot of them just use it as a babysitter. Right. It's like, it's like, I hate to see this. There'll be a mother wheeling her kid around in the park with a phone in front of them.
Yes.
You got a whole nature here to interact with, right? And the Baby Einstein, they found that the kids only learned if they were watching it with a parent or a caregiver, someone who cared about them. That's what our brains need. That's that analog environment, those connections God gave us that really, really strengthen our brain.
Yeah. And one of the things that you say is that the exercises are super, super simple. And because Herb and I have both been through it, we can attest to that. They're super simple, but at the same time, they really, really work your brain out. And so if you're thinking about a child who's having trouble making decisions, a child who's having trouble with math and reading, but then their brain can work on something simple and easy that strengthens it, then it's going to filter out into all of those different areas that they need help with as well.
Right. And this latest research is kind of reinforced because if you remember, we went through it, I kept telling you don't stop for mistakes, right? Which is the hardest thing for people to do. Well, when you don't stop for mistakes. It's actually all those little catches. That's where the brain changes the fastest. So you become more accurate, become smoother and faster, which is the goal, right? That speed. And also helps self-esteem. Right? I mean, if you don't have the pressure of being perfect, you release yourself to be your full potential. And then as your brain is changing to get there, then all kinds of wonderful things happen.
So you told the story about how you've helped like Navy SEALs and, military and stuff be super successful. And now you're kind of shifting down towards the kiddos, right? And even the adults with TBI. Give us one of those stories around a kiddo who's, done something because of some of the training and stuff that they've learned and why that happened. What was the underlying change in the brain that helped that happen?
Well, one of my favorite stories, a 10-year-old with very severe ADHD, and his parents did not want to give him on medication. I mean, medication doesn't do what we want away from medication. And so the first time I met with them, so you guys did a baseline. We always have a baseline of processing speed to measure progress against. I don't remember where you were. I didn't look it up, but probably like between a minute and Herb's probably a little bit faster, I think, right? Between a minute and a half or something.
I think I was a minute 40 at the first.
Yeah, right. And then you got way under a minute by the time we were done.
Personal best currently is 39 seconds.
That's awesome. See, and that's all your brain processing faster. In order to do that, we're using all parts of your brain to do that. Well, this young boy, his first baseline was well over 3 minutes. He was so distracted he could barely get through it. And he was failing in school. His teachers didn't know what to do with him. By our third session, he was down under a minute, and he got his first day ever in school. And then about 5, 6 sessions later, he got student of the month. His grades were up, but probably most meaningful was his grandmother let me know, because I was working with his grandmother to help her with her dementia. She said that they were at his birthday party, and he went and found a book and sat down and read it to her. So that never would have happened before.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And another great story that just happened, we're actually starting working with more autistic kids. So we got a amazing video testimonial of a father with his son. Now his son was older. His son was 20. He said by the end of the first session, he said his son went from basically nonverbal to a chatterbox, sat down and watched 2 movies with his dad that night, and took away the invisible barrier around his room that he kept, because autistic, it's a filtering issue. So we get such incredible, almost any type of debilitation, because it's fun. You laugh, right? Kids enjoy it. Families can do it together, right? It's you guys doing it together was always fun. So there's just a massive amount of work that's happening in your brain: dopamine release, endorphin release, connections all through the brain. But again, as you said, Christine, the interface is so simple. A child can do it, but the brain will do what we ask it to do. And in order to do that, it has to rewire.
Yeah. So I actually got certified in this, and
Yeah.
I have a friend who had what's called Guillain-Barré syndrome, and that's where your nervous system or your immune system attacks your nervous system. And he became 99% paralyzed. He was a wreck, couldn't touch lost all feeling, everything. And I told him I was doing this, and he was interested. So I've kind of been walking him through it. The amount of what you're talking about, what he's gained back,
Yeah.
how he's handling life now. We talk about meetings he goes to, we talk about other things. The way he describes how this is affecting his life is just like, wow, I know how it's affecting me.
Yeah.
He's almost caught up to my time. That actually is like, oh my gosh, it's like now I feel like I gotta like step it up. So, it really is amazing. And it's like, oh, cognitive process, this. And it's like, but the way it's like so many aspects of life, it just comes in. We actually start talking about the biblical principles and how in this we talk about the social aspects of this. And it's like, what aspect of your life does this not affect? And we haven't really found any. So it's like it's so encompassing. And as you dig deeper in this incredibly simple process, that it is so profound in its simplicity that, I hurt my head tremendously. A series of traumatic brain injuries. My life fell apart. I was on suicide watch for a while. It's like, it got dark. And this process, so much of the work I've been doing over the last 3 years, this just sped it up. There is so many benefits to this. It's like unbelievable. And she's actually working with another child.
Yep.
And not nearly to the level that I'm working on myself, but even just a couple of minutes a week. Can you that is helping.
And that's what I love about it, because it doesn't compete with anything else, right? But it can accelerate the results of anything else, and paired with something else, it's even better. And it's funny. I know that feeling, Herb, but it really keeps me going at night, right? It's just the people. So I've probably helped close to 20,000 people since 2007, when I started with the Marines and the military. And it's just the most rewarding thing, right? To see people's lives change so quickly.
Especially because when you're going through it, the mistakes make the biggest difference. And you see them make a mistake, and you can see and feel their brain change. And, like, and that is just such a weird, joyful place. And then like, they start making mistakes, and I'm smiling like, yes, you made a mistake. Look at what that's doing for you. Yeah. And so that teaches people in their life. It's like, mistakes aren't the problem. What you think about and the dwelling on it, that's the problem. And these processes take that and give you separation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, only God's perfect. Sorry, Christine, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we're really trying to make sure we give the family some activity or some actionable items and stuff, right? So the program is amazing, but what else can families do in just their like normal everyday life that will help their children with some of these cognition connections and things like that? Give us a couple of examples, please.
Yeah, good question. So one of the things, again, out connection with the environment is so important, right? And so, and I know kids tend to lean towards, one area or another, but I think if you expose them to all of things, then they're going to find their path better. One of the things we used to do with my daughter, and I recommend everyone do this, especially for younger kids, just go out to the park, take a piece of string and wrap up, mark out like a square, like a, 3-foot square,
Yeah.
and say, let's see what we can find here. And just let them go. They'll find bugs, they'll find plant. Why do you think this bug is on that plant? Why do you think flower is blooming and this one isn't? So it's a continuous critical thinking process, interacting with the environment. Now let's dig underneath a little. Oh, look, there's some grubs, there's some bugs, so you can turn that, that little patch of grass into a 4-hour lesson if you want in life and all the different things. Oh, you want to know more about that? Why don't we study biology? Or what you want to learn more about this? And so that type of environment just opens up the child's mind to so many different things.
Yeah, because I notice now, like flowers, you walk across the grass, you can't see them, and then now sometimes it's like I'll stop and look, and
yeah, right.
Flowers that are so small, it's like they fit on the tip of a pencil, and it's like that is amazing. It's like, how do we not see these immaculate, minuscule flowers? But you're trained not to look, and your training kind of just opens up your visual field as well as the cognitive powers that you're
right on. Well, and that crossover, I think, is so important. Someone before mentioned about like going to a concert, right? So if your child likes music, go to a concert, and then you can start asking questions. Well, why do you think that chord sounds better than that chord? Do you think there might be a reason? If you wanted to introduce math, well, you've got physics, you've got bandwidth, you've got all these different other scientific things you could bring into them if they're interested in that. And it's amazing to be able to use, you're using all of your brain to figure out something that they care about, that they're interested in. Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be fancy stuff, because that's the other thing that
a
lot.
Right.
Like, oh, I need the fancy light up toy and the fancy this toy, and fancy that toy. And think about it. What do children like to play with after Christmas?
Blocks.
The box.
The boxes.
Well, they did some studies in Japan. It's fascinating. Where they had this child, and they gave him a bunch of toys, and the less they kept taking him away.
Yeah,
they got down to one toy, and he found 20 different ways to use that one toy. So instead of having to do what the manufacturers want him to do, this child was able to use his imagination and come up with all kinds of ways to use that one toy, which is, of course, much better for his brain.
Yeah, exactly. And so
I'm stuck on boxes. I'm
playing
boxes with boxes.
Yeah, another box. They're always the best. That's right.
And actually, I know that a couple of the people in the room, and one of them is a homeschool mom, but she unschools, right? And so because of that thing that's called unschool, they aren't into a direct curriculum or things like that. They allow more of the learning to come through real life and the skills that kiddo needs at that time. So it's one of those things that, yes, we think we need the public school, we need the certain curriculum at a certain time, etc. But there's also the study that, some kids learn better being more unstructured and taking things as they need them instead of following ABC. We can go 1, 2, 5, right? Back and forth.
One of the fun things about that, she told us that one time her son came up and started reading to her. And it's like she hadn't taught him to read. He needed to do stuff, and he did this thing over and over, and he started recognizing the shapes of the letters and what it was supposed to be, and he picked up words. So he actually kind of taught himself to read. I don't remember learning how to read. I remember my mom reading to me, and then she would stop and I would pick up the book and keep going and making it up. And then one day it's like, oh, I'm not making up, I'm actually reading.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of it, again, going back to the analog versus digital. Digital, the developer is telling you what he wants you to see. Analog, and I used to like to use my daughter as an example. So my daughter is a painter, she likes to paint. And so, but she paints abstracts. And I said, well, why do you paint abstracts instead of realism? She said, well, if the artist paints a realistic picture, he's telling you what he wants you to see. When it's an abstract, you can see whatever you want in that picture. And that's kind of like the analog world, right? I mean, you could go out there, your kids can run around in the field. They may be fascinated by the butterfly, or they may be fascinated by the dog. There's so many things in the analog real world, right, that can stimulate the brain as opposed to just, looking at it on a screen.
And our time has flown. Can you believe it? Our time is up. I need you to tell them about your free gift and your VIP gift that you're going to be giving to those who choose to upgrade.
Yes. So the real gift. So the gift is a book I wrote based on neuroplasticity and how to change any habit in your life in 30 minutes or less, not 30 days. It takes what we learned about the brain to do that. And then the VIP gift. Again, my email is the best way to get a hold of me. If you email me and if you're a VIP person, I'll give you a 45-minute free consultation, and I'll actually take you through one of the exercises so you can experience it. And then we can talk about how you think that can change your life.
Beautiful. Thank you so very, very much. So we have some learning, and then we also have some extra support for you as well. Thank you, John, for being here today, for sharing neuroplasticity and all the amazing things that brains can do.
And I know how it's helped me. So I know that 45 minutes with John is more than worth the $47 for our VIP package. So if you are at all interested in this excitement, in that excitement, in what we're talking about, sign up for VIP, because this alone is worth it. And then we have so many others that it's just incredible what we're offering in this package. So be sure to sign up for VIP, sign up with John. You will not regret it.
Thanks. Everybody, wonderful rest of your day. And I'll be